You know, I try to have a heart to heart with my mom. I try to heal the past. I try to tell her how I feel, but yet we find ourselves in some of the similar cycles with different people that just happen to be in similar cycles because certain things have not been healed between me and my mother. So every time she goes to date somebody new and stuff like that, she brings along some toxicity into that relationship, and it really kind of overall affects her, it affects him, and it also affects me. In some cases affects me in general. Um, you know, because I don't really have a say in a lot of stuff, and it's true, I don't really have a say in a lot of stuff, and a lot of some of that is coming from my neighbor too. My neighbor's like, your mother has a life, your mother's an adult, you're an adult, you don't have to like what your mother, who your mother's dating or who your mother's seeing, and it's true, I don't have to, and she doesn't have to like who I'm seeing or dating either. Um, but this guy seems to want to swear up and down that my mother's a good person, that she tries very, very hard for me, and she tries very, very hard for me, and and it's kind of an excuse for her not to, honor her word and do what she needs to do to honor her word to me when she said she's going to come through on something. That there's an excuse that my mother tries so hard to do this and this that she doesn't have to really honor her word and go any further. I mean, she doesn't have to. I mean, that's her choice. She doesn't have to, but the honorable thing would be to honor your word, especially as a Christian, to honor your word, especially to your son and your family. When it comes to things, but this new guy kind of has like an influence over her about things and about on her self esteem and things, and it's kind of doing being kind of brought out in the wrong way, that it's kind of being kind of toxic and abusive. So, um, I'm not 100% happy with, this guy coming into the picture, especially my mother is kind of manipulative and she's a liar and stuff. And I've had heart to hearts with her and tried to tell her how I feel. I mean, I should have told her she hurt me. I should have told her she had hurt me. And there were things that in the past did hurt me that she had done. And I just dismissed it and put it under the rug. But my mother had hurt me in the past. She's hurting me now. She's hurting me now with this new guy. She's hurting me now with different actions and things that she's doing that I don't really agree with. But my mother is an adult. If she wants to see this guy, she wants to see this guy. But if I'm not gonna be around, I'm not gonna be around. If God forbid this guy gets aggressive or changes his tone or tune with my mother and gets aggressive or something or starts acting a certain way towards my mother that's abusive, I'm not gonna be there. I'm not gonna be there. And if God forbid this guy raises a hand on my mother, I might not be there because of the toxicity or the restraints or just how it's overall affecting my life and the situation. Um, so God forbid this guy raises a hand to my mother and stuff like that, and stuff. But he's swearing up and down to my mother that my mother, he justifies my mother's, situation and stuff, and he swears up and down to her that, um, that she that she's done enough, or she's justified in ways that may not always be true, that she is justified, because it obviously creates more of a problem, and it has created more of a problem for me, especially when she may have decided not to go back, not to go, may have decided to go back on her word, that now has affected me in multiple ways, because I was waiting for her to, come through to get me quite a few things that would help me out for the month and stuff that I was really in need of, and I keep telling her some of it's a time constraint, some of it's a time constraint. What are you doing? What are you doing? And she's just not listening. I think she wants to leave me hanging and stuff because she feels like she can't do anymore. My whole thing is, if you can't really do anything and stuff like that, what's the point of coming up here? Because she was thinking about coming up here originally. What's the point of thinking of coming up here if you don't have the money to to even money or anything to really offer me to in the first place for what was offered or what was going to be whole point of the trip of coming up, which is trying to help me get what I need and etc. There's two ways she could do it. She can wire me the money, or she could come up here and give it to me and do it in person. But I told her not to come up here in person. So um, whether she listens or not, that's a different story. But um, I don't agree. I don't agree with the situation. I don't agree with what's happening. But I mean, obviously, my mom's found a new guy, and she found a new guy that feels like treats her a lot better, and came into her life with the best intentions for her. So now she wants to say fuck you to me and fuck you to everything, and kind of run off with this guy, and run off with him and do what she wants to do with him, and not really give a damn about me or anybody else at this point. She's already said fuck you to a lot of her, friends or female friends that she really has had issues with. She's already said fuck you to them, and she's ready to say fuck you to me. Of course, they're both Tauruses. Tauruses and I have had such a rocky relationship in life. A rocky relationship in life. Tauruses and I had such a bad relationship. Two of my brothers are Tauruses. My mother's a Taurus. Um, I dated a couple. I had a couple friends that were Tauruses. I tried to date a couple people that were Tauruses. I slept with a woman that was a Taurus. I had a death threat on my head after I slept with her because she decided to, have it to make it to the point where I was going to have a death threat on my head and I was going to be a target. So, um, so Tauruses and I don't have the best relationships. We were like opposites. We don't do well in love. We don't do well in relationships. We're like opposites. We try to make it work. We try to make it work where we can, but really, I just want my space. I just want my freedom. And Taurus is kind of demanding and stubborn, and sometimes does things that I don't necessarily agree with. Especially in a very toxic manner and etc. That really kind of overall affects not just them but myself as well. And it just gets to the point where I'm get tired of wanting to deal with it. I mean, I didn't want to deal with it with my half brother Jeff, so I cut him off, and I cut the family off, and I cut my niece off, and cut all these people off that I didn't really want to bother in getting involved with or seeing because. Um, I don't want to keep the toxicity going with my half brothers and sisters because my dad was a hoe, and obviously, they say we're family, but I wanted to treat me like family, but really we're not family because their overall actions treat me like they would treat my mother basically. They think my mother's crazy, and they think my mother has issues and things, and it comes from my father. My father and my mother have had a lot of issues with different things with mental health and etc. My brother and my brother talks to my biological father. I don't talk to my biological father, but my brother Jeff has always talked to my biological father. So, I've had I have a choice. I had a choice to talk to my biological father. I don't talk to my biological father. I'm not going to talk to my biological father, but um, the fact that there's just him in the picture, and some of the situations in general are just having influence over certain people like my brother and stuff has played a big part in a big picture into what is wrong and etc. But my biggest thing is I'll let my mom do what she wants to do with this guy, but God forbid he raises a hand to her and stuff like that. I'm gonna be like, I'm sorry, mom. This guy had a temper streak, or this guy has a problem, and if you didn't really see it, or you kind of pissed him off, or had a moment with him, and it wasn't good for you, then I'm sorry. But you made the choice to see him. You made the choice to go forward with him. So she's gonna have to get herself out of that. I'm not gonna be. I mean, I'm not gonna be a man that's gonna go in there and kind of rescue her if she doesn't want to be rescued. So, and if it's already too late to be rescued, it's not my fault. It's kind of hers. So you know. But I'm thinking this guy better treat my mom right. I don't think he's going to treat me right. I don't think either of them are going to treat me right, especially how my mom's already starting to act. Because she said when my stepfather was alive, my stepfather was a Capricorn, but when my stepfather was alive and he wanted to see me and wanted a relationship with me, he didn't really care for my mother too much, and they had a toxic relationship. But he loved me and he wanted to see me. But he said he was. My mom always said he was always abusive to my mother and stuff, which is true. There were moments where he was abusive. He was abusive to both of us. It wasn't just my mother. He was abusive to both of us. And in the end, it really showed. In the end of how things ended, it really showed, and etc. I mean, it took my mental health. It really took my mental health and left me scarred mentally. Was kind of why I kind of have some mental health situations going on, because I got scarred mentally from the relationship with the man that was almost like my stepfather, the closest thing I had to a stepfather. That ended up passing away, but before that ended up walking out of our lives and not talking to us for about a few years to a month before his passing. So um, I don't know. I don't really know what to say at this point, but I hope my mother's going to make the right choices. If this guy abuses her and stuff, I'm not going to be able to go in there and save her. So I'm going to let her find out on her own because she's the adult. So